I'm here for the free salad and coffee.
And he's been a real sport on this whole thing. Dr. Dunn and I met at a program that I did, what, a couple years ago?
Yeah, almost, 2 years ago, October, so it was that spring, so 2.5 years.
Right. Wow. Okay. So what happened was he came to
You're aging gracefully, by the way.
Likewise. I know. He came to a talk up in Numinous, which is a program that I offer up in Clifton Park, and he said, "Why don't you come talk to my students about biofeedback?" And so I did, and then in the end he said, "Geez, the students really liked you. Is there anything I could do to reciprocate?" And I'm like, "Well, I got this idea for a research study." And that's how this all started, and that's how Dr. John, we sat down and I told him what it was that I felt really passionate to do. I became aware of this research about 16 years ago, and I always felt very passionate about doing more with it. And so when Dr. John came along, he will tell you about his own work in a little bit. He had done a dissertation on similar work. And so it was a really wonderful match. It was kismet. It was, the universe kind of lining us up a bit. So the idea is I get the meditators, he does the math. So use the brains. So anyways, all right. So let me tell you a little bit about why, what kind of has inspired this. Again, I've been working in the field of biofeedback, which is essentially the art and science of intention, of focusing the mind, and teaching people how to focus the mind in the body to create change. And so for me, it was just a natural outgrowth for me to kind of look at intentional studies for intention outside the body. And so, of course, years ago, I read about the transcendental meditation research that suggests that when a certain amount of people meditate in a certain area, that there's the crime rate lower. So how many people are familiar with that research? Okay, great. I couldn't understand when I read that like 16 years ago why it wasn't shouted from the rooftops. I couldn't understand why more people...
Because you can't make money from it.
Well, that's yes and no on that one, right? Because the TM organization, and I love all the work they've done. The TM organization, they do have their protocol, and it does cost a little bit of money to go through their process. So that I think is part of the reason why the work hasn't taken on a little bit more of a kind of an overall presence, meaning that people saying, well, I can do this too kind of thing, because there's a little bit of a financial stopgap there. So, but they've done so much research, and I'm going to share that with you in a little bit, that, again, that's kind of what inspired me originally. So let me just tell you a little bit about one of the stories, one of the studies that I just loved, my favorite to talk about, and that is this study here. It's one of my favorite TM studies because there's a wonderful graph that really describes the whole thing. And this was a study done in Washington, D.C. in 1993. And what was neat about this study was that they invited people from all over the world to come to Washington, D.C. during the summer of '93 and to meditate and do the TM protocol twice a day for 2 months. Okay? And they had a goal. They believed that the crime rate would be reduced by 22%. And so let me just show you a little bit about what happened in the graph here. Now you can see this graph here. This is the number of weeks down here. So you can see it goes from 1 to 8, or you may not be able to see. Should I turn it off? Okay. Oops, wrong one. Great. My wonderful green screen. So the week, this is the number of weeks down here from 1 to 8 weeks. This is the number of meditators. It goes from 0 to 4,000. So by the end of the study, there were 4,000 meditators. Over here is the percent drop in crime. They were specifically looking at violent crimes, those of assaults, murders, and rapes. Okay? So if you look over here, this is the percent drop going from 0% down. As the 8 weeks went on, you can see that the number of people gradually increased. Okay? Because not everybody was there in the beginning. People kind of flew in from all over the world, and so they came in here. This is the number of meditators as it gradually increases, and over here is the max amount of meditators, about 4,000 people in the end. Now this is the percent drop in crime, and you'll see here there's a small drop, small drop, small drop, starts to go down and down and down, and look at that. There was the largest decrease in crime when there were the largest amount of meditators meditating. Okay? And I love this graph because it shows it so elegantly. Number of meditators goes up, number of crime going down. And in fact, they were wrong. Crime didn't reduce by 22%, crime reduced by 23%. So it's actually 1% more than they thought. So as Dr. Foldy says, these results are off the charts, and the chances of this happening by chance is less than 2 in 1 billion. Go ahead, Beth. Go ahead.
Did you factor in stuff like weather? Like maybe there was a heat wave or something?
Actually, they do. They do because and crime goes up in the summer. So yeah, they correct for that. Okay. Absolutely. So good question. Good question. So now here's the thing. This study
you can turn that around so you don't have to.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Just
the computer.
Well, actually, this is a really short cord, so I'm not sure if that'll go. But now this is here's again what kind of, I don't understand why more people don't take this a little bit more seriously, is look at all of these journals, okay? Journal of Conflict Resolution. These similar TM studies have been published in the Journal of Conflict Resolution, Journal of Mind and Behavior, Psychological Reports, Journal of Offender Rehabilitation, Psychology, Criminal and Law, Journal of Social Behavior and Personality, Journal of Crime and Justice. Okay, so these are peer-reviewed journals. You know, some of these journals have more than one study listed in them. And there's been several. Did you have anything you wanted to say on that, or no?
No, off the charts.
Right, you see what I mean? Off the charts. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask where they're being presented at? And two, I mean, how does the community know about those? I'm from the community. I've never heard of any of those.
Thank you. That's why I'm here. That's why I work so hard. You know, I don't understand. It's been out for quite a long time. What's your name?
Melissa.
Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. That's my question. And that's why I'm working so hard. And there's a part of me, because I've contemplated this and really sat with it, and part of me is, you know, it's just peace.
Okay.
Which sounds horrible, doesn't it? It's just peace, you know, but if it was war, it'd be all over the news. If it was, you know. And the other thing, too, I really believe, again, I've sat with this question a lot, why isn't this room more filled? Why don't people care more, kind of thing, is the idea that, you know, this type of research really doesn't have a lot of financial backing. Now, the reason for that, now the TM organization supports all of theirs because it's this kind of TM protocol. And then we're going to talk about a woman in a little bit. Lynn McTaggart came along, and she wrote a book called The Intention Experiment, so she's kind of gathering some people, and she's got wonderful scientists behind her. But the idea that, but it's not like a drug company research, right? So a drug company has got a lot of financial incentive to promote research, okay? And this is why this is research that needs to be done by the people for the people, okay? Because really, who's going to step up? Go ahead.
I didn't just mean the TM community. I mean, I think that you can't make money off peace.
Right, that's
you
what I mean.
save money, but
Absolutely.
you don't make money.
Right, that's what
and
I'm
in this society, if it's not a product that makes money,
people don't want to hear about it.
That's exactly it.
Up
Right.
until now.
Up until now.
Thank you, Debbie. No, but the idea is, how many of you watch the news and you just feel frustrated, right? You feel like you powerless.
How many of us don't watch the news?
Right, it's because we feel powerless, right? So imagine it every time I watch the news, or when 9/11 happened, I'm looking at the screen going, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. We can vote with our hearts, and I'm going to share with you some of the other research that really encourages all this type of work that I'm doing. So the idea that does the focus of meditation matter, okay? And so the idea that the TM research is what they call, my understanding, because I have a very basic understanding, I did the basic TM out of graduate school 20 years ago. My understanding is it's very kind of self-referenced, okay? So you're internally focused, okay? And you're becoming coherent. And the research suggests that the more coherent we become, yes, the more of an effect we have outside the world, right? Many of you have read about the HeartMath research, when people become coherent. And those people who are coherent are able to influence DNA in petri dishes, and people not trained in coherence are not able to influence the DNA, okay? So this idea that becoming internally focused is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And that's what the TM research does. But there was a woman who came along, and her name is Lynn McTaggart, and she wrote a book called The Intention Experiment. And she was interested about what if we took intention and focused it outward, okay? And so in her book, The Intention Experiment, what she did was gather all of the research she could find on intention and try to put it in a book and try to put it together. And it's a wonderful book if you want to get a book to read. It's very easy to read. She makes it very fun. But she did what I was trying to do. I remember when I got out of graduate school, spending so much money trying to find any little bit of data on intention. I remember spending like $80 for the IONS paper magazine, and that was so much right out of graduate school. But I was like desperate to find one research study on intention, And so when I found her book that just put it all together, I was just so happy. And yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
I know I'm a question, but
that's okay.
So I'll probably throw my hands up a million times.
Right.
But and especially you said you trying to get this out to everybody as far as meditation is concerned. Like I don't to be honest, I don't know the proper way to meditate. So there's a lot of people like myself who doesn't even know what meditation is. Right,
and that is the goal of this upcoming year. Actually, is we're going to be doing more training.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. And the good news is you don't need to know, because in January you can stream it off your computer and you'll just be guided. They're going to kind of guide you on how to meditate. And there's a million different ways to meditate, but we're doing this one kind of protocol. So anyway, so that's what we're going to.
I'll be talking about this, Melissa, the science behind it, because across all of those, there's a certain pattern that emerges.
Okay.
So I'll describe that when we do my little spiel.
Oh,
yes.
Your mathematics.
Yes.
Well, no.
Are you a sociologist?
I'm just kidding with a joke.
Pardon
Are you
me?
a sociologist?
My doctorate is a joint PhD in communication and sociology. My research is in cognitive science, which is the study of the nature and evolution of consciousness. Meditation being one tool along that path.
Absolutely.
So Bethany, before you get any further, you were talking about being coherent. Can you describe what that means?
Actually, I've got some slides on that at the end. How's that? Okay, thank you, though. Good question. That obviously you're way on us. I'm sorry. Remind me your name.
Regina.
Regina, that's right.
I wonder what's the name of your book.
Oh, The Intention Experiment is the actual name. She's got three. The first was the field, the intention experiment, and the third one is the bond, how we're all connected. So, what Lynn McTaggart did was she was getting all enthused by all of this kind of intentional research, and so she ended up, she wanted to start doing intentional experiments herself. And so she started with simple biological systems, and she was having people send intentions to different, seeds or plants, and then seeing if they could have any changes. And so what she started with was a little geranium leaf that glowed, she puts it. And that is that what she would do is she would go talk to audiences, and then she would show them two leaves that were, in a lab in Arizona. And she would have the audience pick which leaf they wanted to work with, and the other leaf became the control leaf. And she asked them for 10 minutes to send intentions to the leaf to, quote, glow and glow. Okay, so it's this idea that all living systems put off these little biophotons, these little packets of light. And so the idea that, she felt as though people could kind of grasp that, just ask the leaf to glow and glow. And then sure enough, what happened was this. The leaf, given the glowing intentions, released light emissions that were so strong that they could easily be seen on digital images. Okay? So, and she did this a few times. And this idea, now, anyone here familiar with Larry Dossey's work?
Just thinking his name.
Yeah, right, Larry Dossey, right? Now, the reason why I bring him up here is because, presumably this is why I love the plant research. It's because it's so clean, it's so clear. This idea that if there's two leaves and the audience picks one leaf and the one leaf stays, dark and the other one lights, the idea that, what else would have made the leaf lighten up? There's really, the idea of, did someone else adopt the leaf and start sending prayers for it to kind of glow and glow? No, it was probably the audience. It was probably. We don't know. It's science. You can never say that, something caused anything else. But the idea that, in the book of Larry Dossey, he talks about the problem of extraneous prayer and prayer research. This idea that, even the control subjects, they may be being prayed for by their families, so that could be influencing the data. Presumably, no one else adopted this leaf, and that we don't have that problem of extraneous prayer, that when the audiences sent the intention for it to glow, that it was probably, the audience had a good chance of having something to do with it.